everyone. Good morning, noon, or evening, depending on where you are joining us from. Thank you for spending the next hour with us here. ACM Women Celebrating Technology Leaders. This series is designed to demystify various career options. So in each episode, we invite women leaders who have been successfully architecting their careers in a particular field under the general umbrella of computing. Today, we are focusing on careers in user interface and user experience space, more commonly known as UI/UX. And I am thrilled to have with us Evren Holland, Anju Kim, and Iram Mirza, who combiningly represent decades of experience in this field. I am Bushra Anjum, and I will be leading the discussion for the first 45 minutes. The final 15 minutes are for you to ask any questions to our panelists. Feel free to write in and send your questions throughout the discussion as you have them via typing them into the Q&A window and clicking submit. Also, on the bottom panel, you will find a number of widgets, including Twitter and sharing apps. We strongly encourage you to share any nuggets you may find useful in this discussion, as surely it will help others in your network too. All right, let's get started then. Welcome, Evren, Anju, Iram. So how about we go in order, and please tell us something about your journey, what you studied, where you started, and how you ended up doing what you are doing right now. Evren?
Sure. I love telling this story. I guess I'll go back all the way. It was for me the time that during my MFA years, I was working on conceptual installations, conceptual arts, basically mixed media, large-scale installations that included sound, performance, and video. Also, I had a close group of friends that were a mix of engineers, artists, and scientists. And it was a really interesting mix because engineers and scientists were interested in art, and artists were interested in technology. And it was also around the time that iPhone first generation was released. So it was this exciting time where we were all discussing ideas and, geeking about what other experience can be turned into an app. That's kind of how it started for me. I was already doing my MFA and continued with the human-centered design and engineering program right after completing my MFA at University of Washington. So I was always interested in psychology and sociology, and of course, my interest in technology. So HCD, so UX made sense to me. That's how my journey began.
Very cool. And where you are working right now?
I'm currently leading up the UX UI/research team at MotiveMetrics. We are a growing startup based in Palo Alto.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that. Iram, your journey?
Hey, thank you so much, Bushra, and I'm really excited to be here. I think about 20 years ago, when I was thinking about, what I wanted to be when I grow up, by the way, I still ask myself that question. I knew that I wanted to make things because I've as a child, I love fashion. I was talking to all of you about fashion earlier as well. I love fashion design. I like building things. When you were talking about installations, I love that as well. So I chose computer science because I thought it was allowing me to actually create things that we could share. And after undergrad, when I started working, I still wasn't getting that experience of, as an engineer, I was building back-end things maybe, and it wasn't really feeling like I was making user-centered experiences. And so I decided to go back to school and really think about creating things for kids who are interested in learning in general. And during my master's program, I came across this beautiful human being, this professor called David Kelly, who really just he spoke what I had been thinking. It was about product design. It was about human values in physical products. And that's when I was like, yep, this is it. So, it's just that bringing together all these different cross-functional and thinking about technology, thinking about cognitive psychology, thinking about anthropology and like humans, how they interact with products, and then the actual craft of designing, of delivering something that somebody can either behold, can see, or play around with. And since then, like I just started out as an IC. I'm currently leading the UX team for Plate Store, focusing on the instantiation of that across different form factors, phone, Android Auto, Wear, TV. Also thinking about the monetization aspect of the business. So how are we growing the business both from commerce and growth, owning that as well.
Thank you for sharing that. Anju?
Hello, everyone. This is Unju Kim. Nice to meet you guys today. I studied visual design as an undergraduate in South Korea. In my junior year, I took an interaction class and got so fascinated by two reasons. The one, unlike a printing design where you need a commercial equipment to produce high quality output, I can own the end-to-end process from idea to execution. I just loved it. Second, I can iterate design based on feedback, unlike printing materials. Once it's printed out, once it's distributed, you are done with your design. Unlike that, interaction design, you just iterate with the users. I just loved that notion. Since then, I started my career as a web designer in Korea. For 3 years, I came to the States, studied my master in HCI, and gained experience in the 15 years. I actually came back to South Korea to join Samsung to do wearable UX there for 5 years, and came back to join Google in Silicon Valley. So I've been in this field for 25 years. Love to share, any wisdom, any advice with the UX community today.
Thank you. Thank you all for sharing about your background and where you are working right now. I would like to build on that a little bit. So all of you have mentioned advanced degrees. So Iram has done a MS in Learning, Design, and Technology. Evren has done a degree in Human-Centered Design Engineering, and then Andrew mentioned Masters of Design in HCI. So how would you say your particular degrees or educational paths enabled you to be where you are today? Another way to ask that question would be, looking back, would you have gone a different route educationally? Let's start with Anju and go in the reverse order.
Yes. So I studied human-centered communication design for my master's degree at Illinois Institute of Technology. As I said earlier, I studied visual design in undergraduate and I worked as a web designer for 3 years before I decided to pursue my master's degree. I very much wanted to strengthen my skill set in 3 pillars. First, I made this number. First, understanding business. And second, the foundational human factors like cognitive, social, cultural, physical factors. And lastly, the 3, selling design concepts. Basically, articulating with the rationale. I learned those core skills from the design program at IIT, and it really helped me to step up on my career to the next level.
Thank you. Evren?
I studied human-centered design and engineering, and prior to design, all my life I went to art schools, all the way from high school and college and MFA including. And it was fascinating for me to combine psychology and anthropology and art into technology. And what I've learned in school was basically human-centered design and development principles. Not only the methodologies and the processes, right? Like that's the hard skill part, but also when and why to use them as tools. And soon after it cleared, it kind of was epiphany to me that it became in kind of like an industry agnostic problem solving discipline. UW HCD emphasizes usability and research in a holistic way. And you combine that with your design thinking and with your creative approach, and you can solve any problem in any industry at any complexity. That's kind of was my takeout from my education.
Yeah, industry agnostic design thinking. Love that thought.
Yeah. I love what Unju and Evren have been talking about. I think there are two things that I would add to this. One is having that technical background helps me be a better partner for my cross-functional teams. Having the empathy for what it takes to actually design and develop those pixels, right? You can come up with something beautiful, but if you can't implement it, there's no value to it, right? Beyond just looking at a picture. So being able to dig into that and understand technical constraints, I think has been really good. The other thing, just building on what Evren is saying, is the problem solving and the way to reframe the problem in a user-centered way is, I think those are skills that you get when you are in design school, when you're thinking about approaching the problem from a completely different way. There's one mindset of, hey, there's this amazing technology, look what we built. And it's great, but what is the user value? Like, how is it going to change human life? Where does this fit in our connected universe? Versus there's an actual need, there's a struggle that people are having or a pain point. Let's really think about which technologies and what kind of innovation we need to fill that gap and to deliver something that can impact human life. I think that aspect definitely helped my education and background help with.
Beautifully said. And I was wondering, something that you all alluded to, you use terms like, of course, technology, art, sociology, anthropology, psychology. So that made me wonder that usually some people who are not deep into the field, whenever they hear the words UI, UX, they may immediately think about, oh, we are talking about a web designer or a graphic designer. But it seems like the field has a lot more complexity and a lot more options than just a graphic designer. So in your experience, what have been the different UI, UX career options? And if you can briefly tell us about what technical skills are required for each. Miriam?
Yeah. Thanks for that question. I think it's a really good question, especially for people who are looking to get into this field. There's some very obvious ones, like people talk about the interaction designer, the person who is responsible for the flow, thinking about the end-to-end journey, the visual designer, maybe akin to what you are referencing from a graphic design. Then you have content strategists who are responsible for words, but also content and how it delivers the message. Prototyping or UX engineers, people who are able to put together the design in a way that it helps with selling and doing the storytelling. You have sound engineers, you have motion artists or motion designers, you have illustrators, but we're also, and researchers, obviously. But I think the field has moved beyond this, like as you're thinking about how specialized the experiences around us have become, thinking about sound, also thinking about how we're triangulating data. And I think this is the interesting part for me, is as a UX organization, how we are now partnering with, and in some parts of the company and in other places, how are we thinking about data? And, is it quantitative analysis? Are we working with like business analysts? Are they part of UX? So it starts to slowly blend, because all these people are informing the decision making and how you think about the end-to-end product experience.
Nice. Evren?
To add to that, I think it would be also, really good to think about, in terms of career options, right? What the individual's best skill set are. Are you good at, problem solving and connecting the dots at a larger holistic way? Or are you better at pixel perfect colors, the art and creative direction that will be the look and feel of that solution? Or are you better at studying the problem area, products and services and consumers, right? Like those are also the things that to consider, to add to Iram's point. And in terms of graphic design and UX UI, I think that the misconception of what is UX and UI are still in the conversations. But in terms of career options, that definitely it is beneficial to look into what are the best qualities you have and you want to improve upon. What do you like doing? Where do you shine? Where do you thrive at? I think that's a path to start before going into specialization.
Yeah. Would you like to expand quickly on, you said, the difference between UI and UX for our audience? In your opinion, what's the difference?
Sure. Oftentimes we are hired as user experience designers, but actually it is the misconception of, it is the UI. So the whole work, getting to that, what that UI will look like, kind of gets hidden under the UI. So what we want to basically talk about more is experiences, right? Like what problem we are solving, and are the solutions solving the problems? How are they impacting the lives? And how is it also connected to the vision that we were trying to achieve, right? Is it aligning with our missions so that that UI can happen? So UI is kind of like the last portion of everything. So that's where your visual experience comes in. Of course, there's the usability portion of UI that shouldn't be underestimated. But there's a whole big strategy and work gets done right before that UI mask is put on.
Before the UI mask is put on. Nice. I'll be tweeting about that later on. Yonju, about the different career options that you have seen in this space.
Yes. I think that Iram and Evelyn basically covered pretty much. I can add to the gaps from my side. At Google, there are about 12 different roles, titles in the UX field. Iram already mentioned several different roles and titles: interaction designer, writer, visual designer, etc. I work on Google Assistant team, so we have a unique specialized function we call conversation designer, who does a voice interaction design. But each specialized function has their own unique technical skill set. Iran and Evelyn already covered it. For example, interaction designers have a skill to figure out how it works, like visual designer to figure out how it looks, and a conversation designer or writer to figure out how it sounds. So we all need to build up together to make a holistic experience, how it works, how it looks, how it sounds. But more importantly, regardless of your function, all UX designers have a human-centered point of view and a great passion to make a product to meet users' needs. That's the common shared the skill sets that all UX designers have.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for sharing that. It's great to hear about all these different options. Go ahead.
Yeah. There's just one thing I wanted to add, which is, I don't know how the three of you feel about it, but sometimes I feel like I just want to kill the expression UI designer. I feel like it's very constraining because I think, everybody is a UX designer or product designer, depending on, what org you're in. But UI just feels very constraining to me because you're responsible for the overall experience. And then from there, like what piece of it are you looking at? But when I hear the expression UI design, it's like, is it only just about these widgets that they're designing? Are they designing buttons? I don't know. And they could be really geeking out and nerding out and just designing buttons. But that still means that they're UX designers. So maybe that's something that we can talk about afterwards. And one other thing that I just wanted to point out related to this question was for people who are looking to enter into this field or already are a UX designer and maybe their expertise is visual or illustration, please know that it is easy to move across some of these different disciplines within user experience. You might want to try becoming a researcher. You might want to say, I want to get closer to, the product design and working on the business. So should I become the overall UX thinker on it? So don't worry too much if you're a content strategist that you can't make that leap. Just look for partners and people who can support you on it.
I love your point about the UI designer. It's a constraining kind of a title. Well, that's why conversations like these are important, and I'm so glad to have you all here. So do you think on the same topic, programming or coding, how much is that important for a role of, say, a UX designer or anyone else in this space? Do they need to know how to code or program, or can they come from a completely non-computer science background and still do good? Iram, let's start with you.
Yeah, it's a hard question. I think my only point of view here is you need to have empathy for all the functions around you. Designers need engineers. And the best products come from teams that have really healthy challenges and debates where they can disagree respectfully. But and the other thing is they understand each other's craft and respect it. So as a designer, respecting that there are constraints and there are challenges with engineering, and here's what it takes, but also understanding what are the capabilities of the system. Because if you know those, you can make your pixels do magic, or you can make your words do that, or the conversation design will really flow and it will tie in beautifully with the voice experience of the product. And the flip of this is, as an engineer, you could make something. Will it be useful? I don't know. But if you respect the designer, if you understand their craft and empathize with what they're trying to build, I think that's when you get the best of both worlds. So I don't know if it's necessary to know how to code. I think it's very important to understand what environment you are working in. It could be Android, it could be iOS, it could be web, it could be, like new things that are coming up that, very specialized, but just understanding the capabilities and the extent of those is what can help your product really go far.
Yeah.
Beautifully said. Go ahead, Evren, and you. Yeah.
Or Evren?
Oh, I said, go ahead. Whoever wants to add to that, go ahead, Evren.
I'll go ahead. I couldn't agree more, Iram. I think you said it beautifully. Definitely, passion and empathy and respectful conversations are very, very important between cross-functional teams, and that's, I think, how we actually make things happen. But I don't think learning how to code as a designer should ever be a requirement. Designers definitely should have a good understanding of the technical constraints and technical requirements. It is already, end-to-end design, the experience of things, coming up with that in terms of problem solving is already a really large effort to take on for the design teams. I think if the goal, what's the goal of really having designers learn to code, right? I think if the idea is bringing holistic views and collaboration and all that, but, there are already different ways of doing that, and that is through empathy and through respectful boundaries on each cross-functional team's capability and what they can bring to the table. But I think what would really help is support. If we can support the design teams by giving them voice in the leadership level and help them create a design culture organizationally, right? Implement that design thinking organizationally. I think that's just a better way to go, and it's a win-win in the long run. On the contrary, on the other hand, will the engineers learn design in a way that designers do, right? So that's another flipped question.
Yeah. It's certainly food for thought. Andrew?
Yeah.
Well, I get this question a lot, and I cannot agree more with Aram and Evelyn. My advice, whenever I get this question, should I learn coding? Should I do the programming skill? My advice is it's only necessary if you want to use your coding skills to demonstrate your problem-solving skills. Mm-hmm. Let me reiterate, as you know, the Aram and Evelyn said, UX designers are not technicians, but problem solvers. So you need to think about how to develop your creative thinking skills to solve a problem. And that will lead you what you need in order to communicate your ideas. That can be literally drawing skill, that can be storytelling, that can be coding skill, if you want to use a coding skill to demonstrate your ideas, right? Mm-hmm. If you enjoy coding, and if you can utilize coding skill to show your problem-solving skill, why not? Go for it. But I just see this fear and pressure to junior designers or whoever want to come in this field. There's somehow fear that I have to learn this program skill or coding skill, the pressure. You as a designer, if you focus your time, energy, and effort on the learning new programming language, you will never be able to market leader with that skill, because there will be always people who are better than you, who has a better coding skill, better programming skill. If you really put your energy onto technical, the skill training, you will be always a follower for that new programming language and new tools. So you have to think a little bit far away for your career that, what I want to be. I want to be a problem-solving person. I want to be UX designer. So I have to really build, I have to expand my vision, looking at human, looking at market, looking at the opportunity area, and then take it back how I can demonstrate, communicate my ideas. Mm-hmm. That's my advice.
That's beautifully said. Looking further into your career and seeing what problems you can solve and how to build the skills that could enable you to do that. Angie, let me ask a follow-up question, because I was reading your profile and you have worked with some of the industry's biggest names, Microsoft, Motorola, Qualcomm, Samsung, and now Google. So what were some of the things that you learned from each of these workplaces?
That's a good question. So Google is my 7th full-time job, and including interns and contractors, so it's 11th, the company. So every company had unique lessons that I learned. Some, if I can share my episode, that in Microsoft, 20 years ago, Bill Gates invited all summer interns to his house. That was like amazing. So I've been in his house. At Motorola, when the Razr phone hit the huge success, the research team spent 6 months, half a year, for the global consumer trend research. They concluded green color. Green color is upcoming color trend, but the market was already full of green products too late, right? And at Qualcomm, we had a project that we worked for 2 years and got shut down because it was too slow to catch up with American needs. I was at Samsung in Korea. At Samsung, nothing is impossible. If you need to flip back your design revision, yes, sir, it will just happen. And then at Google, anything is possible at your own risk. I call this culture responsible freedom. You have great freedom, but you are responsible for your design output and your work. So like each different the company has a different culture, different challenges, and different mission to accomplish. One thing that I see that you need to have your own career path story. That's something that you need to think about when you build a career journey. That is not about. So for me, it was not about Samsung. It was not about Motorola. It was not about Qualcomm. It was all about opportunity that I'm gonna learn from that, the company. So like for me, I have a great passion about emerging service, like a new space, that new paradigm that I can play around. So when I joined the Qualcomm, I had an experience and opportunity to work on augmented reality UX design, which was absolutely like new space to figure out. And then when I joined the Samsung, the reason that I joined the Samsung was that they were looking for lead designer who can build the foundation for wearable UX for their smartwatches, where there was no good paradigm and practice for wearable UX at the time. The reason that I joined the Google was that the Google Assistant is like we are entering to this new era of multimodality experience, making technology more human-like interaction. These are new paradigms that we have to think about and then build the paradigm for that. But that's kind of my career, the track and then a path that I've been, the building up, that I always want to do some new space, and then that opportunity that has a physical actual device interaction, that's where my strong passion and interests are. So that's the thing that when you looking for new opportunity, or even at your current position, think about how you are gonna open this opportunity to build your personal brand, your personal story of your career. That's the most important thing.
Nice. How you're going to build a personal story of your career. And talking about unique journeys, Evren, your journey is quite interesting too. Of course, you are now working as a design lead, but you have also been a freelancer, a consultant, an entrepreneur in the space. How has these different roles been for you?
Quite the journey, quite interesting, and I'm enjoying it very much. You know, it's everything's a new adventure to me. That's, I think, what I loved about art and what I love about design and technology. You know, I started out as a freelancer accidentally because there was this dilemma of, do you want to do UX? Do you want to do UI? Do you want to do research? That's, you know, what the recruiters asked you, right? And I couldn't pick because I knew how my mind worked and I knew how my creative juices operated, you know, how my mind operated. I was more on the holistic approach type of person, looking at things end to end. So I picked projects where I could apply that holistic approach, that get involved in that end-to-end experiences. And after doing that for a while, that, you know, naturally rolled into consulting roles for a good few years. And I worked with lovely companies, wonderful people in really interesting projects, you know, and that consulting turned into business basically eventually. But I share some similar experiences, right? Like with NGO, and every time you go, I've probably been to 30 plus businesses, all the way from new to established businesses, enterprises, agencies, startups. Startups want to be anything and everything. And every environment has a different way of operating. And I was able to adapt pretty quickly. I learned pretty quickly how to adapt and transform, kind of zooming in out that design thinking and human-centered design approach we have. Because it's not a cookie cutter, right? Like you have to adjust based on the problem space, based on the scale that you work with, but also the maturity of the organization in terms of UX, right? Human-centered design. And I was lucky to see, you know, so many different environments, what worked, what didn't work, what failed, what didn't fail, what was, you know, kind of led to success, what led to failure. It's been an interesting journey. And I went into business because I love the big picture, and I knew that's where my best value came in. I loved sitting with the leadership, the C-suite, the business owners, and figuring out their vision and mission and how I can actually be the bridge to their consumers, to their users, whether it's a service design, whether it's a product design, whether it's something else. So that's kind of how I have been approaching as well, that, you know, that kind of became me, that holistic design thinking approach. And I just seek for the interesting problems now to solve.
Yeah. A holistic design thinking approach, having the business stakeholders go alongside you. Nice. And talking about business side, Iram, you initially started as a UX designer, but now you have moved towards the position of a design manager. So how has that progression been like?
I mean, it's been great. I think just, I think when you make that transition, you really have to ask yourself why you want to make that transition. And I think if you know, it's when you want to scale, I felt like I was bursting with ideas and I just didn't have enough hands or enough time to actually get all those things done. So when you have trust within an org, trust within a team, you can have a lot more impact if you make that transition from IC to manager. And I think the only thing to think about, the only guidance I would have is there will definitely be a switch in the altitude at which you need to fly when you move from IC to manager. Like, you have to get out of the weeds. You have to get out of people's way. You have to remove roadblocks from your team's path so they can be successful and they can shine.
Yeah. Nice. So that they can shine. Let's spend a few more minutes on the UI UX team. So you all have had different experiences. What in your experience makes a happy and performant UX team? And when I say team, it has all these different roles that we have been discussing so far. And a sub-question of that would be that what are some of the characteristics that you will be looking for as you hire for your UX team? So Evren, let's start with you.
Sure. I think that happiness is something that, it's too complex to measure. But
maybe overrated.
Yeah, it's happiness is kind of overrated. But what is actually valuable is satisfaction, right? Having the space, your team members should feel the space of sharing their ideas and disagreeing, right? So I think in terms of performance and in terms of performance of UI UX teams, those are the things that definitely something that we should pay attention to. UXers are impact makers, right? Like we want to see the designs getting implemented. We want to see the impact, the change. And this is where the most satisfaction comes from. And the satisfaction drives motivation to do more, to do better. When the satisfaction and motivation are in place, then you unlock this higher level of creativity. That's where your creative juice and creative threads are floating, right? They're coming out. But when you take away all the elements that leads to satisfaction and motivation, then it kills the creativity. And without creativity, the work becomes soulless, just dogmatic task. That's where basically the performance also goes down. So the unhappiness, right? So that's team level, but also organizationally, right? Where that team sits in the organization, and how they're supported and how they're valued, right? Does the organization accept and support, design teams? And do they have voice in the organizational level? Is the impact visible? Is the collaboration done cross-functionally, through design thinking, right? So all these things in the problem-solving scenarios, where the design thinking comes, where the creativity comes, and all those things really are the impact for high-performing UX UI teams. So the happiness that we are talking about, and also, something that I think is being miscalculated or underrated is inspiration during the creative thinking, during that creative juice that I call. The inspiration happens when the things are in the right places, where you have the momentum going. And without that inspiration, then there is no creativity, there is no creative thinking, really. There is no collaboration. We get inspired by collaboration. We get inspired by, listening to other people, other stories, by looking at other designs, other creative work, by walking on the street, seeing a beautiful building, right? Like or looking into nature. So the inspiration, just peace, bringing that into the office, into the workspace. That's the critical part, I think. That's kind of my take on. Did you have a follow-up question to this?
Oh, I was just saying that when maybe hiring for your UX team, are there specific characteristics that you might be looking for?
Yeah, absolutely. Personality. You can teach hard skills to anybody, I think, but personality is something that comes with it. Definitely communication in terms of giving and taking criticism, what to do with it, and whether having collaborative mindset or not. Holistic thinking, being able to connect the dots in a bigger picture, being able to zoom in and out of a problem space, right? Understanding usability is a key, right? We are type of design we're doing is functional, so it has a function, so we have to understand usability component. So otherwise we might as well just put it in a museum, I guess, without the usability. But also potential, open to grow and learn, improve, and of course the role-specific hard skills, but I'm okay with average as long as the personality fits.
Nicely said. I was in a discussion with another friend of mine, and they said that their hiring mantra is that we do not necessarily need the best people, but we need really good people who are open to learning. So that you reminded me of that. Eunju, would you like to add to that?
Yes. The characteristics of happy UX team. I would say, adding to Evelyn, three things. So I will use my card. One, diversity to bring different point of views, because technology and the product should work for everyone. So UX team is critical to have a diversity in the community. And my second point, vulnerability to foster disruptive innovation. The innovative idea usually starts from very silly question or extraordinary idea, right? So design team should have a vulnerable culture that anyone can bring anything on the table without worrying about, being criticized or being hurried, etc. My last one, happiness. I have a strong belief that a happy designer makes a happy product. That's just my philosophy of the design team, that believe or not, when you see a product, you can feel whether it's a beloved product by creator or not. If it's not a loved product by your designers, how can you sell it to other people? That's a nonsense. So making sure that we have delightful, enjoyable, happy culture, so critical to build good, successful product. It is gonna designers' happiness will move into the product.
Having delightful cultures that make beloved projects. Love it. Iram?
Yeah, I think I plus one the comments that Evren and Unju made. The only thing I would add is you really need to believe in the problems that need to be solved, right? Like to Unju's point about that love and that respect, you need to have that belief that this is a problem worth solving. So because if you're just looking for a job, you will be doing that job. But that extra 10%, sweating the details, really thinking about the what if and what you can make this comes from that belief. And tied to that is understanding the why, aligning with business goals, really speaking the language of the org around you so that you fit in. I think that's also a great way to build that trust and that, trust with your organization. As designers, UXers, being given the time and space to explore and iterate, to really practice and hone in on your craft. We have some signs up in our team like, no mock-up monkeys, because we're just looking for a quick mock-up. You're not going to find it here. And that comes with, like Evren said, you have a seat at the table. I think it's been, this function of user experience and product design. I feel like in the last 25 years or so, it's morphed to a point where now it's expected. UXers have a seat at the table, but now that you have a seat at the table, what are you doing? How are you really embedding yourself within the strategy of the product? The only other thing that I would probably add to this is, in terms of performant and happy teams, is how are you decompressing as a team? Because culture is very important. Teams have different personalities. So what are you doing to really help people relax and unwind and get to know each other? I just wanted to quickly share one of my favorite ways of decompressing with a team that I had previously in payments. Every week we would sit together in a room, sit down on the floor, and one person we got this book called Shindogu, which is like, crazy Japanese products that, are created, but people can't figure out why they were made. And, for 20 minutes, she would just read them out and show pictures. And it was the best time of the week. And it was ridiculous. These are pretty, amazing people, but those 20 minutes of the week were some of the most fun and ways to engage with them. And wrapping up, I think what you were talking about, what capabilities we're thinking of when hiring into the team. Again, +1 to what was said earlier. For me, it's really focused on the cultural fit, because as leads, we spend a lot of time really designing the culture for our team. What do we want our team to be? What are our team's values? How do we come across? What is our narrative? So making sure that whoever comes in, they also value those that same culture. And the enthusiasm to learn. We're not expecting you to be the best yet, but we hope that when you're here, you want to learn and you want to really assimilate. And then really, like Yunju was saying, what different perspectives are you bringing? What gaps are you filling? Whether it is from a background perspective or different ways of thinking, different framing of the same problem. Yeah. I have a
nice. I love the different points.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
We're going to spend 8 to 10 hours every day with each other. So we might as well, nobody wants to work with assholes. But if they're your assholes, then you love it. And they're your people. So you can have fun with each other. It's just, building that trust, getting to know each other. So apologies for using that word, but it's something that I talk about.
I personally have so many follow-up questions, but I would want to be respectful of our audience who have been sending us questions throughout. So I was looking through them, and a couple of them have asked the same thing. So I'll ask the question, and whoever would want to take that is fine. So a couple of people in the audience would like to know that in order to start a UX career, especially in the US, how important is a master's degree? And would an online master's degree suffice if it is important? Any of you would like to answer?
I can start on this one. A master's is actually not important. What is very important is your portfolio. Mm-hmm. If you are able to demonstrate that you understand the craft, and you are able to put up, examples of your work where people can see or point to something that you have designed, I think that is enough to get your foot in the door of this industry. Because even if you have a master's, what hiring managers are going to look for, the first thing they're going to look for, and they're going to make that assessment, is where is the portfolio and what does it look like? So you can also spend a lot of time, if you don't have a lot of examples, I usually give this advice of actually make your portfolio also look beautiful. If you can design and build your own portfolio, that's also like a project that you've done. Look for, like volunteer work where you can design an app or a website for someone, even if you're not getting paid. So you have samples that you can see. So more than focusing on the masters, I would say maybe take 1 or 2 classes with Coursera or any of these other online classes. Learn a skill around design, whether it's getting familiar with Figma or Sketch or whatever your tool of preference is, and actually go practice the craft and put up your portfolio. I'll hand it off to you too.
Yeah. I want to add advice to that because I get the question a lot too. If you, because the master, the receiving the master is a big commitment, right? You need to commit your time, you need to commit your energy, you need to commit your money. It's a big commitment thing. If you want to enter master just because you want to add 1 line in your resume, or just you think that it's required to get a job, please don't do it. It's not that big deal based on the commitments that you need to make. But there is a great benefit why you want to go to the master program is that the 2 things. 1, network. Going to master, like any higher degree after you graduate, undergraduate, any higher degree is really great opportunity to expand your network. So not just focusing on title, not a title, but not just focusing on study. You need to pay more your time, more your energy to expand and utilize that opportunity time to expand your network. And that's that I still have my great network from my graduate program. They are still in this field. They are like a lead designer, director, vice president in the company. They are still my good network to give me like good reference. So the network is a good benefit. Second, you need to really be clear what skill set that you wanna feel. Like for me, as I explained, I decided to pursue my master because I needed to strengthen my skill sets in 3 pillars that I talked about, right? You need to be really clear like what I am lack with and what skill set that I want to strengthen by going this master degree. That way, you will maximize your commitment, your money, time, energy. You will maximize your commitment by identifying clearly, what you want to get out of it.
Yeah, I would agree with Evren and Angel that I think one thing that I would add is you want to do masters because you have this feeling, the need of you need to learn a bit more about a particular area. And that's where you want to focus on and get masters at, basically. So you want to master something. So just, be careful with your objectives on why you are getting masters. It should come from that desire, that need, especially in our field. That's what I want to add.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And another question that at least 3 people have asked in different ways is that what is the future of UX? The field has been evolving so fast over the last decade or so. So what kinds of methods and skills should we develop to be better prepared to adapt? Any of you who would like to start is fine.
I can jump in. I work on Google Assistant products to bring AI and humanized technology. If I look back on my 25 years of experience in this field, I see evolution of interaction paradigm. We studied with a text comment, the line, we entered the GUI, graphical user interface, with a mouse, and we started a mobile era non-touch interaction to touch interaction on a smartphone. But if you think about it from a human point of view, it was more like humans adapting to technology. Everyone gets the same UI to deal with. What my team does is flipping this paradigm. Can we make a technology to adapt to humans? Can technology cooperate with a human natural interaction like a voice conversation? How can AI truly help to tailor experience to individuals? That's a big UX paradigm, the shifting that I see, and then that's going to be big, the mission to think about in UX community.
Thank you. Iram?
Yeah, I know we've run out of time, so I'll make it quick. Two things that I see. One is everything is now connected. The world around you, objects around you are connected. You are connected to other people in a way that we hadn't seen in the last few decades. So this notion of the connected world, the supercomputer in your pocket, what does that, what responsibility do we have as designers to really build on that experience? So, there are seamless handoffs. Authentication is still not solved from a design perspective. So how are we going to really think about that? The second, it all ties down to the ambient technology. And the other thing is the scale has changed. From an engineering perspective, sure, we can raise, companies very quickly, but the world has shrunk. Things are connected. How mindful are we, and how respectful are of all the different people and user segments that we are now connected to, whether it is different geos, different literacy levels, or different economic backgrounds. So I think from a responsible experience perspective, I think that's also the future is building on what Inju was saying. How do we use that AI? How do we use machine learning so that now if we have a simple experience, we might have been designing for US, Japan, Korea, but extending that to emerging markets, extending that to different user segments, I think will also be part of the future.
Nice. Extensibility. Evren?
Hopefully, design thinking will be embedded across industries, and it's going to be the norm. That's kind of what I'm wishing from Santa this year. But really, I'm really super excited about, UX and AI becoming kind of this homogeneous workspace. And I agree with the connectivity that is basically everything is becoming connected, but also everything is becoming integrated. And I'm also seeing a peak in the service-based industry, service design, especially in the healthcare, that is becoming more digitized. So that's kind of something exciting, and I can't wait to see how AI will pick up in the health industry, basically. Yeah.
Very nice. We certainly plan to have future discussions on AI and health too. Go ahead, Yanjip.
I know we are running out of time, but I want to add quickly that because AI, humanization, personalization, those are really big words, and it may not resonate to you. So I want to give you an example that you can probably resonate or internalize what this really means. That I can give you an example with the car navigation system. That, personally, I don't have a good sense of direction. So if she tells me drive to north, I have no idea. And I don't have a good sense of distance. So if she tells me turn right in 2 miles, I have no idea. But I have a good sense of visual landmarks. So the way my brain works to find the direction is I need to turn right if I see a CVS at the corner. I need to turn right if I see a red roofed house. that's a humanization and personalization we're talking about. Technology, AI should really know what sense I have. So navigator should direct me, when you see CVS, turn right. Don't tell me turn right in 2 miles, but tell me turn right if you see CVS, just for me. Things like that.
Yeah.
Oh, I would love that technology. I have no idea what south means when I'm on the road. I mean, south could be anywhere. Okay. Thank you so much to our audience who have been here for an additional 5 minutes. 2 quick announcements for our audience. One is that you will see a link on your screen to our brief feedback form. It is brief because I designed it. It will hardly take 2 minutes, but it will give me signal on what careers and paths to focus on in the future. So please, 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 please do fill that out. And also, I know there were many other questions because the discussion was so exciting that we were able to get to. So if you will see an email button next to my bio widget. So if you could email me your question and which particular panelist you wanted to have a perspective on, I'll make sure that I communicate it to them and get you your answer back. So thank you so much, audience. Thank you so much, Iram, Evren, Yunju. I was having such a fantastic time. I can continue this discussion for more 2 hours. Thank you for sharing your experience, your stories, journeys, wisdom. It was truly a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This was really nice. Yeah. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Bye, everybody.